They say the eldest child matures the fastest. But no one warns you how isolating it feels to be the first one to notice you've been quietly pushed aside. That awareness doesn't strike like lightning. There's no dramatic reveal, no shouting match. It arrives slowly, like a subtle crack in your chest that never quite heals. If you're watching this, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. I remember the precise moment I realized I was more of a background character in my own family than a person who mattered. It was last Thursday. The sky was dull, the rain constant, a colorless, washed-out day that felt more like a blurry memory than something real. Time dragged. The streets smelled like damp cement. I had just returned from a grueling 9-hour shift at the bookstore. My palms smudged with ink, my legs sore from standing all day. All I needed, was a sign that someone had thought of me. A hot meal on the table. Some comfort. Something simple that whispered, "You matter." Instead, I found a cold plate covered in plastic wrap waiting on the kitchen counter. The mashed potatoes had gone stiff. The green beans looked shriveled and grey. Next to it sat a yellow sticky note, my name scribbled on it in a rushed hand. "Heat this. There's pasta in the fridge too." I already knew what pasta they meant. It had been sitting there for 4 days. I made it myself. I looked around. The dining table was cleared. 2 wine glasses air-drying near the sink. The scent of fresh herbs lingered in the air. Rosemary, garlic, a rich buttery aroma that didn't belong to cold leftovers. My stomach clenched. But it wasn't just from hunger. It was from something sharper, shame. Not because I'd done something wrong, but because I still foolishly hoped they'd treat me like I was part of them. Like I belonged. Then I heard laughter floating down from upstairs. My mother's voice, airy, full of joy. My father's deep laugh followed. I edged closer, drawn in despite myself. Mia, my younger sister, was on speaker. "You should have seen the place," she was saying. "Oral is insane. The dishes are like sculptures." I had lobster tail that literally melted. And the dessert. Gold flakes. I swear. My mother gasped like it was the most magical thing she'd ever heard. "My baby deserves only the finest," she said. "You've been working so hard on your midterms." Midterms. Mia had flunked 2 classes recently. Most days, she lounged around the house in baggy sweatshirts, glued to TikTok. Meanwhile, I was the one juggling 2 jobs and scraping through online courses I paid for myself. But I didn't say a word. I just stood there in the hallway, invisible, while they beamed with pride over her dinner photos. They had taken her out, celebrated her, while I was left to microwave week-old pasta. It wasn't a new story. Mia had always been the favorite, their shining star. She got the private dance classes, the birthday parties with ponies, the random weekend trips just because. I got shoes from the clearance bin and greeting cards with the price tags still attached. When I succeeded, it was quiet. When I messed up, it echoed. Mia's wins sparked celebration. Her mistakes were forgiven before she even admitted to them. Once, when I was 15, I finally asked them about it. Why the different treatment? Why always her? My heart thudded in my chest as I tried to keep my voice even. My mom didn't even glance up from her phone. "You're the oldest," she said. "We expect more from you." It didn't matter that I never caused trouble. That I stayed in line, got decent grades, never broke the rules. It didn't matter that I kept the house clean when they were too tired or that I covered for Mia when she skipped school. I was the easy one. Which, in their language, translated to the forgotten one. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table, scraping my fork across a chipped plate as I forced down cold pasta. I held back tears, not because I thought crying made me weak, but because I knew no one would care. I had cried before. They never asked why. I had once screamed, and they told me I was overreacting. I even stopped eating for a week, just to see if they'd notice. They didn't. The worst kind of rejection isn't someone telling you you're unwanted. It's when they act like you were never there to begin with. After eating, I washed the dishes like always. I cleaned their wine glasses, dried the expensive plates they used for her dinner. I put away the half-empty bottle of white wine they'd saved for a special night. Before placing the cork back in, I paused and wondered what it would take for me to ever feel like someone special. I walked past the living room. They were sitting side by side, grinning at Mia's Instagram post. She was smiling in front of a flawless dish, her caption filled with hashtags, #star, #fine dining, #well deserved. My mother read the caption out loud with admiration. Just look at her. So stunning. I tried to remember the last time she looked at me that way. I couldn't. Maybe it never happened. Back in my room, I sat on my bed, legs crossed beneath me. The soft light of my laptop screen lit up a scholarship application I had half filled and never submitted. Why bother? Even if I got it, even if I achieved something huge, who would cheer? Who would even notice? The applause had always been reserved for MIA. Then something in me gave out. But not in a way that made me collapse. It wasn't the kind of breakdown that leaves you shattered. It was the kind that clears the fog, that moment when you finally see. I had spent enough time begging for the bare minimum. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for affection served in crumbs. I was done auditioning for love in a home that never clapped. They had handed everything to MIA with ease, served it up like royalty. But someday, they'd realize that giving her everything meant she never learned to hold anything with care. Me. I had taught myself how to carry the weight, how to survive on my own. That night, I pulled out the suitcase I'd kept tucked beneath my bed. It had been packed for months, half out of fear, half out of stubborn hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd change. But hope, like anything left out too long, had expired. Not in a loud, burning finale, but in silence, as I sat there with cold noodles in my stomach and a heart finally tired of settling for less. As I zipped the bag, one thought settled into my bones, clear and unshakable. They'll regret this. The next morning, I slipped out without noise. No grand exit. No tears. Just me, my worn suitcase, and a quiet farewell to a house that had always felt more like a stage than a home. I boarded the earliest bus and headed to Jess's place, the only place that had ever felt warm. Her family welcomed me in with the kind of care I didn't even know I was missing. Her mother brewed us tea. Her father asked how I was, like he really wanted to know. And I sat there, stunned that something so small could feel so overwhelmingly new. Living with Jess was like learning to breathe again. At night, we wrapped ourselves in blankets and talked, really talked. About fears, dreams, the kind of pain we didn't dare voice before. She didn't just listen. She made space for me. And that's when I realized, family isn't always the people who raise you. Sometimes, it's the ones who show up when no one else does. To keep myself afloat, I picked up shifts wherever I could and re-enrolled in community college with scholarship funds I had nearly forgotten existed. I shelved books by day, studied by night. It was exhausting. There were nights I came home aching, pockets nearly empty, but I was free. Every small win was mine, no one else's. The day I got an A in a class I was sure I'd fail. There were no cheers, no congratulations. Just me, smiling in the mirror, hearing my own heartbeat whisper, "You did it." Time moved on. MIA kept posting photos, spa trips, upscale dinners, vacations with wine glasses staged for the perfect shot. Eventually, I stopped checking. The less I looked, the more I felt myself letting go. My parents never reached out. Not for holidays. Not for birthdays. Oddly enough, it didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Because by then, I had stopped waiting. Then, one evening, months later, my phone lit up. Dad. I stared at the name for a long time, uncertain. I didn't owe them anything. Still, curiosity, or maybe closure, made me tap answer. His voice was unfamiliar, careful. "Hey, how have you been?" "Fine," I replied, not cold, just guarded. There was a long pause. Then he exhaled. "We haven't heard from you." "You didn't try," I said, steady as stone. What came next I never expected. He said, quietly, "We didn't know how to." Then he told me about MIA. She'd lost her job. Failed more classes. She'd been lashing out. And that day, apparently, she'd said something. That I had always been the strong one. The one they leaned on too much. The one they never said thank you to. His words lingered, soft and strange, like hearing your name in a language you used to speak. There was apology in them. Regret, maybe, but healing. That had already started long before. That was mine. We miss you, he said. No, I replied gently. You miss the person who kept everything together. But you never really saw me. He was silent. Then, finally, we want to be better. We didn't realize what we were doing. I'm sorry. And for the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed. I had waited so long to hear those words. And now that they'd come, I realized I no longer needed them. I had already stitched myself back together. I told him, maybe one day we'll talk again. When you're ready to hear me without comparing me. Without shrinking me to Mia's shadow. When you can see me, not as her sister, but as someone who built her own life from the pieces you left behind. That night, Jess and I sat on her rooftop, warm cider in hand, staring up at the stars. She looked at me and smiled. You've changed, she said. I had to, I whispered. If I hadn't, I'd still be fading. The girl who once sat alone eating cold leftovers while her sister lived in luxury, she didn't disappear. She evolved. She learned to feed herself on dignity, strength, and quiet joy. She created a life no one gave her. And in doing so, became impossible to overlook ever again. Let them carry their guilt, that's their burden. As for me, I'm finally free to live the story I wrote with my own hands.